A man who always spends time alone is very dangerous. At first glance, it might seem like a contradiction. After all, isn't danger often associated with chaos, power struggles, or outward aggression? But a man who chooses solitude, who walks through life without constantly seeking the validation or presence of others, possesses a kind of power that most people can't even comprehend. He's not just someone who prefers the quiet. He's someone who thrives in it. That makes him unpredictable, unshakable, and yes, incredibly dangerous. You see, we live in a world where constant noise surrounds us. Notifications buzz in our pockets, opinions flood our screens, and people clamor for attention at every turn. In this environment, solitude is an act of rebellion. A man who willingly steps away from the crowd to be alone is making a statement, whether he knows it or not. I don't need any of this to define me. And that, my friend, is a dangerous mindset. Think about it. How many people can truly sit with themselves without distraction? Without scrolling through their phones, turning on the TV, or filling every moment with someone else's company? The answer is very few. Most people are terrified of being alone because solitude forces them to confront their thoughts, their insecurities, and their true selves. A man who embraces this discomfort, who chooses to spend time with his own mind, is not running away from anything. He's facing everything head-on. But why is he dangerous? Because solitude gives him an edge. It sharpens his focus, clears his mind, and strengthens his will. A man who is comfortable being alone doesn't rely on others to validate his worth. He doesn't crumble under pressure to conform to societal expectations. He's not swayed by fleeting trends or shallow judgments. Instead, he stands firm, guided by his principles, his purpose, and the clarity he gains from his time alone. Let me ask you something. Who would you trust more in a crisis? A man who panics when he's alone, or a man who can sit quietly, assess the situation, and act with precision? The answer is obvious. The man who spends time alone is calm under pressure, because he's trained himself to face challenges without outside interference. He's learned to rely on himself, and that self-reliance is what makes him unshakable. And then there's the mystery. A man who values his solitude isn't easily read. He doesn't wear his thoughts and emotions on his sleeve for everyone to see. He doesn't feel the need to explain himself or seek approval. That unpredictability keeps others guessing, wondering what he's thinking, what he's planning, what he knows that they don't. Mystery, my friend, is a powerful weapon. But let's make something clear. This isn't about being aloof or antisocial. A man who spends time alone isn't necessarily a loner or someone who isolates himself from the world. He knows how to engage with others when needed, but he doesn't depend on it. His solitude isn't a sign of weakness. It's a demonstration of strength. It shows that he's comfortable in his own company, that he's capable of standing alone without wavering. So as we dive deeper into this topic, I want you to think about the kind of man who can spend time alone. What does he know that others don't? What kind of power does solitude give him? And most importantly, what can we learn from him to harness some of that quiet strength for ourselves? Because if there's one thing we'll discover together, it's this. A man who spends time alone isn't just dangerous to others. He's dangerous to mediocrity, to fear, and to anything that stands in his way. Number 1. The solitude of the dangerous man. Let me ask you something. How often do you hear people say they crave peace and quiet, yet as soon as they find it, they scramble to fill the silence? Most people aren't prepared to sit alone with their own thoughts. The world has conditioned us to equate constant interaction and busyness with productivity and worth. But the man who chooses solitude rejects this notion entirely, and in doing so, he sets himself apart. The historical significance of solitude. Throughout history, some of the greatest minds have been men who embraced solitude. Think of Albert Einstein pacing in solitude as he pieced together the theory of relativity. Consider Henry David Thoreau retreating to Walden Pond, where he wrote a timeless manifesto about living deliberately. These men didn't avoid the world because they feared it. They withdrew to connect with their inner genius, to cultivate ideas and principles that would later change humanity. Solitude has long been a sanctuary for philosophers, inventors, and visionaries. They recognize something many people overlook. Being alone isn't about isolation, it's about focus. It's about creating space to think deeply, dream boldly, and question freely. In solitude, there are no distractions, no societal pressures, and no noise to drown out the voice of your own intuition. The difference between loneliness and solitude. It's important to understand the difference between loneliness and solitude. Loneliness is being alone and wishing you weren't. Solitude, on the other hand, is a choice, a deliberate act of stepping away from the world to cultivate self-awareness and inner strength. While loneliness drains you, solitude replenishes you. And for the man who knows how to wield it, solitude is a source of incredible power. In solitude, the dangerous man learns to process his emotions, reflect on his actions, and plan his next steps. This isn't escapism. It's strategic withdrawal. While others lose themselves in the chaos of life, he finds himself in the quiet. And in that stillness, he discovers something most people never will: clarity. Solitude as power. Why does solitude make a man dangerous? Because it allows him to step out of the rat race and see the bigger picture. He doesn't get caught up in petty arguments or meaningless distractions because he's not constantly surrounded by the noise of others. He moves with intention and purpose. While the world reacts impulsively, he acts decisively, and that makes him formidable. When you see a man who thrives in his solitude, you're witnessing someone who has mastered the art of self-reliance. He doesn't need constant validation or reassurance. He's not afraid of being judged or misunderstood. Instead, he draws strength from within, making him a force to be reckoned with. Number 2, a deep dive into self-awareness. Now, let's dig deeper. One of the most powerful gifts solitude gives a man is self-awareness. In today's world, where people are obsessed with their external image, what others think of them, how many likes their posts get, or whether they fit into societal norms, true self-awareness is a rarity. But for the man who spends time alone, it's second nature. The mirror of solitude. When you're alone, there's no one to distract you from yourself. Solitude forces you to confront the person in the mirror, not the one you project to the world, but the one you truly are. And while this can be uncomfortable at first, it's also liberating. A man who embraces solitude becomes deeply in tune with his strengths, weaknesses, fears, and desires. He learns to accept himself as he is, flaws and all. Self-awareness isn't just about knowing what you're good at or what you want. It's about understanding your triggers, recognizing your patterns, and being honest about the areas where you need to grow. A dangerous man knows himself inside and out, which makes him nearly impossible to manipulate or deceive. He doesn't fall for flattery or get defensive when criticized because he's already done the work of facing his truths. Emotional intelligence through introspection. Time alone also sharpens emotional intelligence. In solitude, a man learns to navigate his emotions without external input. He understands why he feels the way he does and how to manage those feelings constructively. This makes him calm under pressure and empathetic in his interactions. He doesn't react impulsively or let his emotions control him. Instead, he uses them as a guide. Have you ever met someone who seemed unshakable, no matter the circumstances? That's emotional intelligence in action. It's the ability to remain composed, think critically, and act wisely, even in the face of adversity. A man who spends time alone develops this skill naturally because he's constantly reflecting, analyzing, and growing, building mental fortitude. Here's the thing. Solitude isn't always easy. It takes courage to sit with your thoughts, especially when they're uncomfortable. But this is exactly why it's so transformative. The man who spends time alone develops mental fortitude, the ability to endure discomfort, face challenges head-on, and bounce back stronger. While others seek instant gratification or avoid their problems altogether, he confronts them. He knows that growth comes from discomfort, and that the only way to overcome fear is to face it. This resilience is what makes him so formidable. He doesn't crumble under pressure because he's already weathered countless storms within himself. Authenticity and self-acceptance. Finally, solitude fosters authenticity. A man who spends time alone isn't swayed by the opinions or expectations of others. He knows who he is, and he's unapologetically himself. This authenticity draws people in, not because he's trying to impress them, but because it's so rare and refreshing. In a world where so many wear masks to fit in, the dangerous man stands out simply by being real. His self-awareness and authenticity make him magnetic. People respect him because he respects himself. They trust him because he's honest, both with himself and with others. Number 3. Independence breeds strength. When a man spends time alone, something remarkable happens. He becomes fiercely independent. This isn't just about being able to survive on his own. It's about thriving without constantly leaning on others for validation, guidance, or approval. Independence, after all, is the foundation of strength, and the man who has mastered solitude possesses it in abundance. Freedom from societal norms. Think about the world we live in. People are often pressured to conform, to follow trends, maintain appearances, and live according to societal expectations. But a man who values solitude learns to break free from this cycle. He doesn't need to chase the latest fad or seek acceptance from others, because his worth isn't tied to their opinions. He's built his own identity, brick by brick, in the quiet moments of his life. This independence makes him a dangerous figure, not in a harmful way, but in a way that disrupts the status quo. He's not easily swayed by groupthink or external pressures. Instead, he follows his own path, guided by his principles and inner compass. When others see a man who cannot be controlled by societal norms, they are both intrigued and intimidated. Financial and emotional independence. Independence extends far beyond mindset. It touches every aspect of life. Financial independence is a key example. A man who spends time alone often has the clarity and focus to set long-term goals and work toward them diligently. He's not distracted by keeping up with others or living beyond his means to impress anyone. This financial freedom gives him choices and control over his life. Emotional independence is just as important. A man who thrives in solitude isn't emotionally dependent on others to feel complete. He doesn't need constant reassurance or attention to feel valuable. This doesn't mean he avoids relationships. On the contrary, he can form deeper, healthier connections because he's not relying on others to fill a void. His emotional independence allows him to love freely, without insecurity or fear. Contentment in solitude. One of the most striking qualities of an independent man is his ability to be content with his own company. While many people dread being alone, he finds peace and fulfillment in it. This contentment stems from the fact that he's built a life he genuinely enjoys, a life that doesn't require external validation to feel meaningful. In solitude, he has time to cultivate his passions, reflect on his achievements, and set new goals. He doesn't feel the need to chase fleeting pleasures or distractions, because his fulfillment comes from within. And this contentment is incredibly powerful because it makes him unshakable. He's not chasing something he doesn't have. He's protecting and building upon what he already does. Resilience through self-reliance. When a man learns to rely on himself, he becomes resilient. Life is full of challenges, and the ability to face them without crumbling is a hallmark of strength. The man who spends time alone has faced his fears, wrestled with his doubts, and emerged stronger. He knows that he can weather any storm because he's done it before, time and time again, in the quiet moments of his life. This resilience isn't just about survival, it's about thriving in the face of adversity. While others may falter when life throws them a curveball, he adapts, learns, and grows. And that's what makes him truly dangerous. His ability to endure and overcome without relying on anyone else to save him. Number 4. Mastery of skills and knowledge. One of the most overlooked benefits of solitude is the opportunity it provides to master skills and knowledge. In the stillness of solitude, a man can dedicate himself fully to his craft, whatever it may be. This focused effort, repeated over time, creates expertise that is both rare and valuable. And expertise, as we know, translates directly to influence and power. The role of solitude in mastery. Mastery requires time, effort, and undivided attention. In a world filled with constant distractions, solitude offers the perfect environment to hone one's skills. Whether it's writing, coding, painting, or problem-solving, time alone allows a man to immerse himself deeply in his work, free from interruptions and external noise. Consider historical figures like Nikola Tesla, who worked tirelessly in isolation to create innovations that changed the world. Or Isaac Newton, who developed the theory of gravity during a period of solitude when the plague forced him to retreat from society. These men didn't achieve greatness because they were surrounded by others. They achieved it because they embraced the power of being alone, deep learning and focus. The dangerous man understands that surface-level knowledge isn't enough. In solitude, he dives deep, studying his chosen field with an intensity that others can't match. This focus isn't just about accumulating information. It's about understanding the nuances, mastering the details, and connecting the dots in ways that others overlook. This deep learning gives him a competitive edge. While others skim the surface, he operates at a level of expertise that commands respect. Whether he's negotiating a deal, solving a complex problem, or creating something new, his mastery sets him apart. People recognize that he knows what he's doing, and that makes him an asset, or an opponent to be feared. Crafting a legacy. A man who dedicates himself to mastery is building something far greater than a skill. He's crafting a legacy. Every hour he spends in solitude, refining his craft, brings him closer to leaving a lasting impact on the world. He doesn't just aim to be good, he aims to be exceptional. And that pursuit of excellence is both inspiring and intimidating. This legacy isn't always about fame or recognition. For some, it's about creating a body of work that speaks for itself. For others, It's about passing down knowledge or setting an example for future generations. Whatever the goal, the man who masters his craft in solitude leaves an indelible mark. The connection between expertise and influence. Here's the thing. Mastery leads to influence. When a man becomes an expert in his field, people listen to him. They seek his advice, follow his lead, and respect his opinion. This influence isn't forced. It's earned through dedication, hard work, and results. And that influence makes him a powerful force in any setting. When others recognize the depth of his knowledge and skill, they understand that he's not someone to be underestimated. He commands respect, not because he demands it, but because he's proven himself time and time again. And that, my friend, is why the man who spends time alone, mastering his craft, is one of the most dangerous people you'll ever meet. Number 5. The unpredictability factor. Have you ever met someone whose next move you just couldn't predict? Someone who seemed calm, composed, and impossible to figure out. That's the aura of a man who spends time alone. He's dangerous not because he's reckless or aggressive, but because he's unpredictable. And unpredictability, as any strategist will tell you, is one of the most potent weapons in the human arsenal. The element of mystery. When a man spends time alone, he learns to keep his own counsel. He doesn't feel the need to broadcast his every thought or action to the world. This self-control creates an air of mystery. Others don't know what he's thinking, what he's planning, or what he's capable of. While many people wear their emotions and intentions on their sleeves, the man who values solitude keeps his cards close to his chest. This mystery makes him intriguing, but it also makes him a force to be reckoned with. People can't predict his reactions or manipulate him easily because he doesn't reveal his vulnerabilities. He knows that what others don't know about him is often his greatest strength. Hard to influence, harder to control. The unpredictable man isn't swayed by public opinion, gossip, or social pressures. His solitude has taught him to think independently and make decisions based on his values and logic, not the whims of the crowd. This independence makes him nearly impossible to control. When others try to impose their will on him, they find themselves frustrated because he's already considered the possibilities and made up his mind. He doesn't react impulsively or fall into traps because he's practiced the art of thinking several steps ahead. This ability to stay one step ahead is what makes him so dangerous. He's always prepared for the unexpected. The allure of mystery. Mystery isn't just a defense mechanism, it's also a magnet. People are drawn to what they don't fully understand. A man who spends time alone often exudes confidence and calmness that others find both intriguing and intimidating. They want to know what he's thinking, what drives him, and how he stays so composed. But that's the beauty of his unpredictability. They'll never truly figure him out. This allure isn't about playing games or manipulating others. It's a natural byproduct of his self-assuredness. He doesn't try to impress people or seek their approval, and that authenticity is captivating. While others try to stand out by shouting louder, he stands apart by staying quiet, calculated, and enigmatic. The strategist's edge. Unpredictability also gives the solitary man a strategic advantage. In a world where most people are predictable, he stands out as someone who can adapt, pivot, and outthink his opponents. Whether in business, relationships, or life in general, his ability to keep others guessing makes him a formidable adversary. When you don't know what someone will do next, you can't effectively plan against them. That's the essence of strategic unpredictability, and it's a skill the solitary man has perfected. He's not reckless, he's deliberate, and when he does act, it's with precision and impact, leaving those around him scrambling to keep up. Number 6. The quiet power of observation. There's a saying, "A wise man listens more than he speaks." This couldn't be truer for the man who spends time alone. In his solitude, he hones a skill that many overlook, the power of observation. While others are busy talking, reacting, and drawing attention to themselves, he's watching, listening, and learning. And in that quiet study of the world around him, he gains an edge that is subtle, but immensely powerful. The art of listening. Most people listen to respond, not to understand. But the man who values solitude approaches listening differently. He doesn't rush to fill the silence or assert his opinions. Instead, he absorbs information, processes it, and uses it to his advantage. In conversations, he hears not just the words people say, but the intent and emotions behind them. This skill makes him an excellent communicator and a master of interpersonal dynamics. He knows when to speak, when to stay silent, and how to position himself effectively. People often underestimate quiet individuals, mistaking their silence for passivity. But the man who observes carefully often knows more about a situation than those who are actively involved. Reading between the lines. Observation isn't just about listening. It's about noticing what others miss, the way someone's voice changes when they're nervous, the subtle shift in body language when someone's hiding something, the unspoken dynamics in a room that reveal who holds the power. These details are invisible to most, but not to the man who's trained himself to see them. In solitude, he practices this skill by reflecting on his own experiences and paying attention to the world around him. Over time, he becomes adept at reading people and situations with uncanny accuracy. This ability to read between the lines gives him a significant advantage in both personal and professional settings. Seeing patterns others overlook. In his quiet moments, the solitary man notices patterns. He observes how people behave under pressure, how they respond to success and failure, and how they reveal their priorities through their actions. This pattern recognition allows him to predict outcomes, anticipate challenges, and seize opportunities that others don't even see. For example, while others are distracted by the latest trend, he notices the underlying forces shaping the future. While others react emotionally to a conflict, he sees the bigger picture and plans his response accordingly. This clarity and foresight make him a powerful decision-maker and a trusted advisor. The influence of quiet confidence. There's a unique power in being the quietest person in the room. While others compete for attention, the man who observes commands respect through his calm demeanor. He doesn't need to dominate conversations or assert his authority loudly. His presence and insights speak for themselves. People often turn to him for guidance because they recognize his wisdom and perspective. His ability to see what others can't makes him a valuable ally and a formidable opponent. In a noisy world, his quiet confidence is both refreshing and intimidating. Number 7. The legacy of the dangerous man. What does it mean to leave a legacy? For the man who spends time alone, his legacy isn't necessarily about fame or fortune. It's about the profound impact he has on the world around him. His choices, his mindset, and his actions inspire others to rethink their own lives. And when he's gone, the ripples of his influence continue, often in ways no one could have predicted. The power of quiet influence. Unlike those who seek recognition at every turn, the solitary man doesn't need applause to validate his contributions. His legacy is often built in the shadows, through consistent actions and unwavering principles. People may not notice him immediately, but over time, they realize the depth of his influence. Think about the quiet leaders in history, the inventors, philosophers, and thinkers who weren't always in the spotlight but changed the course of humanity. Their power wasn't in their volume, it was in their vision. The man who spends time alone mirrors this kind of influence. His introspection and focus allow him to shape his surroundings, often in subtle but significant ways. Leading by example. A dangerous man doesn't preach, he demonstrates. His independence, self-awareness, and mastery become a blueprint for others who aspire to greatness. When people see his ability to stand firm in his beliefs, thrive in solitude, and move with purpose, they're inspired to do the same. This kind of leadership is more effective than any speech or directive. It's authentic and earned. People trust a man who leads by example because his actions speak louder than words. He shows that true strength comes from within, and that message resonates far beyond his immediate circle, creating a ripple effect. The solitary man's legacy often spreads through the people he touches. He might mentor someone, create something meaningful, or solve a problem that benefits countless others. These contributions, however small they seem at first, create ripples that expand over time. For example, a solitary artist may create a piece of work that inspires generations. A quiet innovator might develop a tool or idea that transforms industries. Even in personal relationships, the solitary man's depth and authenticity leave a lasting impression, encouraging others to embrace their individuality and strive for excellence. Breaking the mold. One of the most enduring aspects of his legacy is his ability to challenge the status quo. The man who spends time alone refuses to be boxed in by societal expectations. His life is proof that there's another way to live, a way that prioritizes authenticity, growth, and purpose over superficial success. This refusal to conform doesn't just benefit him. It benefits everyone who watches him. By breaking the mold, he paves the way for others to do the same. He shows that it's possible to thrive outside the boundaries of conventional thinking, and that's a lesson that echoes long after he's gone. An unforgettable presence. Even after he's no longer around, the legacy of the dangerous man lingers. People remember his calm in the face of chaos, his wisdom in difficult moments, and his ability to inspire without trying. His presence becomes a benchmark for strength and character, setting a standard that others strive to emulate. Number 8. A balanced approach to solitude. While solitude is a powerful tool, it's not without its challenges. The man who spends time alone walks a fine line between independence and isolation. To harness the full potential of solitude, he must learn to balance his inner world with meaningful connections to others. This balance is what transforms him from a lone wolf into a true leader. The risk of isolation. Solitude, when taken to the extreme, can lead to isolation. A man who cuts himself off from the world entirely risks losing touch with reality. He may become overly self-reliant, rejecting help or collaboration, even when it's necessary. This isolation can limit his growth and rob him of the richness that comes from meaningful relationships. The dangerous man understands this risk and takes steps to avoid it. He values his solitude, but he doesn't let it consume him. Instead, he uses it as a tool to recharge and reflect, ensuring that when he does engage with others, he's bringing his best self to the table. Building meaningful connections. Contrary to popular belief, a man who spends time alone isn't antisocial. In fact, his time in solitude often makes him better at building meaningful connections. He approaches relationships with intention, choosing quality over quantity. He doesn't waste time on shallow interactions or toxic dynamics. Instead, he seeks out relationships that challenge and enrich him. These connections aren't about dependence. They're about mutual growth. The dangerous man knows that while he doesn't need anyone to complete him, he thrives when he's surrounded by people who inspire and support him. This balance allows him to maintain his independence while still benefiting from the wisdom and perspective of others. The art of collaboration. While solitude is essential for deep work and self-discovery, collaboration is often the key to achieving larger goals. The solitary man understands this and isn't afraid to team up with others when the situation calls for it. His ability to work independently makes him a strong contributor, and his clarity of purpose makes him an effective leader. Collaboration doesn't mean sacrificing his principles or compromising his vision. Instead, it's about combining strengths to create something greater than what any individual could achieve alone. The dangerous man knows when to step back and let others shine, and when to take the lead to guide the group towards success. Finding balance in modern life. In today's fast-paced world, balancing solitude and social engagement is more important than ever. The dangerous man recognizes that both are essential for a fulfilling life. He uses his solitude to center himself and his connections to expand his horizons. This balance allows him to navigate the complexities of modern life with grace and resilience. He also understands the importance of setting boundaries. Whether it's carving out time for reflection or stepping away from toxic environments, he prioritizes his mental and emotional well-being. This intentional approach ensures that he can engage fully with the world without losing himself in it. Number 9. Inspiring others through solitude. The man who spends time alone doesn't just transform himself. He inspires others to rethink their own lives. His way of being challenges societal norms and invites those around him to consider a different path. His actions, rather than his words, spark change in those who witness his quiet strength. The role model of independence. In a world where people often measure success by external validation, the solitary man's independence stands out. He doesn't live for the approval of others. He lives for his own growth and fulfillment. This authenticity is magnetic. People look at him and realize that it's possible to live a life that is true to oneself, not dictated by the expectations of society. He inspires others to seek their own path, to question what truly matters to them, and to prioritize their well-being. This ripple effect of self-discovery is one of his greatest contributions to the world. By living authentically, he empowers others to do the same. Actions speak louder than words. The dangerous man doesn't need to preach his philosophy. His life is his message. People observe his calm demeanor, his self-assurance, and his ability to weather challenges without losing his sense of purpose. These traits speak volumes and often resonate more deeply than any motivational speech could. His quiet strength reminds others that they, too, have the power to cultivate resilience and clarity. He doesn't push others to change. He shows them what's possible through his own example. This subtle yet profound influence is what makes his presence so impactful. Encouraging solitude in others. One of the most powerful ways the solitary man inspires others is by showing them the value of solitude. In a culture that glorifies busyness and constant interaction, he proves that stepping back isn't a sign of weakness. It's a path to strength. He helps others see that solitude isn't something to fear, it's something to embrace. It's a chance to reset, reflect, and reconnect with oneself. Whether through direct mentorship or simply by being an example, he encourages others to explore the power of being alone. The ripple effect of growth. The solitary man's influence often extends far beyond what he can see. The people he inspires go on to inspire others, creating a ripple effect of growth and transformation. His legacy isn't just about what he achieves, it's about the changes he sparks in those around him. This ripple effect ensures that his impact lasts long after he's gone. The ideas he shares, the lessons he embodies, and the inspiration he provides continue to shape lives, often in ways he'll never know. Conclusion: the legacy of the dangerous man. So, what makes a man who spends time alone so dangerous? It's not his solitude itself. It's what that solitude allows him to become. In the quiet moments of his life, he builds self-awareness, cultivates independence, and sharpens his skills. He becomes resilient, focused, and unshakable. He learns to think deeply, act decisively, and live authentically. And that, my friend, is a power few can match. The dangerous man isn't just a solitary figure. He's a beacon of strength and clarity in a chaotic world. His life challenges the norms, breaks the mold, and shows others that there's another way to live. He's not dangerous in the way society often defines the word. He's dangerous to complacency, to mediocrity, and to anything that stands in the way of personal growth. But here's the most important takeaway. You don't have to be born this way. You don't have to be a recluse or reject society entirely to tap into the power of solitude. The lessons of the dangerous man are available to anyone who is willing to embrace stillness, reflect deeply, and take responsibility for their own growth. So ask yourself, what would happen if you spent more time alone? If you carved out space in your life to think, plan, and grow without distractions? What kind of person could you become if you faced yourself fully, embraced your strengths and weaknesses, and took control of your own destiny? The answer lies not in words, but in action. And as you begin your journey into the power of solitude, remember this: the most dangerous man isn't the one who shouts the loudest or commands the most attention. He's the one who knows himself, trusts himself, and moves through life with quiet, unstoppable purpose. Be that man,